Good evening, my name is Garrett, and welcome to The Last Call. On tonight's Versus, we have Buffalo Trace coming in at a 45% ABV, no official age statement, versus Wild Turkey 101 coming in at a 50.5% ABV, no official age statement. So, I'm a Wild Turkey fan. I really love their profile and their price points, and I actually really do enjoy Buffalo Trace from time to time when I can find it. And today's market's kind of strange here at the end of 2023, though we are seeing more markets able to find Buffalo Trace, and the third-party sellers and those liquor stores that like to price it up are kind of coming down a bit. However, for those of you that can't find it, I'm helping you trying to look for other bottles that might be a good alternative. So I thought, what better bottle than the iconic Wild Turkey 101? So let's just jump into things, see how it goes. We're going to talk about color, notes, taste, wrap up in the market price section, and maybe pick a winner. There we go. And as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hang around for a bit, pull up a chair, become a member if you're interested. No shame if not, but I hope you enjoy it either way. If you're looking for individual reviews over both of these bottles, along with some others I would recommend, those will be linked up above and down below, so you can check those out after this one. But no, I really do enjoy a good Wild Turkey product. Like, a lot of their mid-range bottles are phenomenal. And again, this Buffalo Trace is still very hard to find for some places, to the allocation points. So based on color, they are very close. However, the Buffalo Trace is just a slight bit darker. Just a little bit. I mean, it is percentages different on that. But let's start on notes for the Buffalo Trace. I always forget. Like, I enjoy Buffalo Trace and I try not to squander my bottle, so I don't go to it often. But I'll tell you what, it is so sweet, oaky. You get those vanillas, the caramel notes, a little cakiness in here, almost like a dessert cake. A little cherry on there, like a cherry drizzle on that cake. You get a bit of the corn grain, or at least I am today. But overall, it's a good, solid profile. Like, this is Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey in a glass for a lot of people, and I can respect that. It's sweet, it's inviting, and it's not super complex. I do love that cherry. I love that bit of cakey sweetness going on in here. A little bit of rice spice as well, just a little bit of a spiciness in there. But overall, that is just a nice, solid nose. Really hard to complain about. Let's check out the Wild Turkey 101. Ooh, wow. Okay, that is significantly different. Okay, so on the Wild Turkey, you definitely get more corn-forward sweetness. Over here, it's more of a cakey sweetness. Here, it's corn sweetness. A little dustiness in there. You still get the oak, the vanilla, the caramel, but the grain is definitely more present on the nose for the 101. Surprisingly, even though it's a little bit higher in ABV, you don't get that much on the nose. Maybe a little bit of a warmth compared to the Buffalo Trace, but the oakiness over here is a little bit more rounded out, I think is the best word I could say on there. It's not spiky, it's not overly bound, it doesn't smell youthful, where here, you get just a small bit of youth in there. It's got a little bite to it. But overall, definitely on the sweetness levels, you're getting more of a dessert sweetness. Here you're getting more grain, more corn sweetness. Here you still get a little bit of that rice spice, not a ton of it, but the corn is what really stands out. And it kind of comes across, if you live in any states or been around a cornfield while it's being picked, that's what it reminds me of. All right, let's go for taste on the Buffalo Trace. And that's just a good solid sip. It's sweet, oaky, a little bit of that caramelized burnt sugars going on in there as well. Drink's a little warm, but nothing off-putting for the most part. It's got a nice solid spice layer in there from the rye, so you get kind of a, not quite an herbal or medicinal, like some ryes can bring across, but more of just the solid spiciness to it. You also get a bit of the char going on there from the cask. The sweetness from the cakiness that I was getting on the nose comes across in the taste as well. A little bit of a cherry drizzle going over the top of it. So it's got that little pop of that Kentucky cherry that I can find sometimes. And then it kind of goes soft on the palate. So you get this kind of burst of flavor that it kind of just rides itself out very softly, not super complex in its finish. It leaves you with a little bit of the rye spice, a little bit of grain sweetness in there. That cakiness kind of shows up, but that tends to be more in the middle, and a little bit of that Kentucky hug warmth. Overall, it's a really solid sip, especially for its price point. All right, let's go for taste on the 101. Man, that 101's great. Brings across a lot more of that corn sweetness that we found on the nose. It's got this big old burst of like almost fresh off the ear corn. That rye spice that's in there as well is definitely stronger than the Buffalo Trace's rye spice. So you get a little more spiciness in there. However, it is even a little bit more warmth on the palate. Yes, it's higher in ABV, which is expected, but it's also got a little bit of that more of a Kentucky hug to it. A little bit more warmth and that little bit more probably youthful taste to it. And it just cuts it just a little bit different. On my second sip here, I am getting a little bit more ethanol in the taste. It's not super overpowering, but it does show up just a little bit. You still get the rye spice, you still get that kind of caramel, vanillas, the little light bit of oak in here, but the big things for me is you get that corn sweetness, rye spiciness, and then that little bite of ethanol. Let's go back to the Buffalo Trace here. Both are really solid sips, I gotta give them that. But that Buffalo Trace really does stand out differently when you put it against the Wild Turkey 101. So, all right, let's talk about market price, because we all know market price is market price, and it's always gonna vary. So, under most circumstances, this is gonna be about $24.99. Sometimes you can find sales on this still to today in 2023, being as low as like $22, even $21. I've seen some people post. The Wild Turkey 101 tends to float in that same range. You're going to be looking at that about mid-25. Here in Indiana, I can find this as low as like $18, $19 right now, which is a phenomenal pour for that price point. So overall, when you compare pricing, they're about equal on that. And at the end of the day, as much as I hate saying it, I gotta give it to the Buffalo Trace. How they're able to bring across that sweet layer really does show across, in my opinion, a little better. This is going to make good for mixers, but it's also going to be great for just sipping neat. It's a great intro to bourbon, and that's why a lot of people clamored for it during the whiskey booms, because it is such a good bottle for its price point. Now, the Wild Turkey 101 is still a great bottle. Don't get me wrong. Again, I love Wild Turkey, but when you really sit down and go A-B back and forth on these, the little bit of harshness from the 101 starts to show up. It's not as complex as the Buffalo Trace. Doesn't mean it's a bad whiskey by all means, but if both of these are $24.99 on your shelf, grab the Buffalo Trace. However, if this is, again, in my market, $18.99, and this is $24.99, I can't pass that up. That's a great bourbon for sub $20, even at the $20 price point. Phenomenal pour. But when they're both identical in price, I gotta give it to the Buffalo Trace. It is a really good sip. And I even came in here expecting the Wild Turkey 101 to win, just because it is such a great bottle that I recommend to so many people. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest, I don't think you can go wrong with either pour at the end of the night. So yeah, there you have it, folks. Buffalo Trace versus Wild Turkey 101. If you have any questions about either bottle, let me know down in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer it. And if you have any bottles I should put up against each other, also let me know down below. Doing these kind of A-B comparisons helps me learn, helps you learn, and maybe make a smart decision on spending your money. And as always, may your last drink of the night be the best one.
You know, I really like it might not.